I used my life savings to put my husband through medical school. A week after his graduation, he left me for his professor and told me, "No one wants a simple waitress." Now he begs me to come back. That's the short version. The longer version still makes my blood boil, even now. It was a Tuesday when my world collapsed. I remember because I'd pulled a double shift at Rosie's Diner, my feet screaming in those cheap non-slip shoes from Walmart. I'd been on them for 14 hours straight, serving entitled businessmen who couldn't be bothered to look up from their phones while ordering their $16 avocado toast. I dragged myself home to our tiny apartment, the one with the leaky faucet Daniel always promised to fix but never did. My plan was simple: hot shower, leftover pad thai, maybe catch up on This Is Us before passing out. That's when I saw the suitcases in the hallway. Not just any suitcases, the matching Samsonite set I'd bought him for Christmas last year with my holiday bonus, $350 I could have put toward my business plan. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice already knowing the answer before my brain caught up. Daniel stood in our bedroom doorway, dressed in that crisp blue button-down I had ironed just yesterday. He didn't even look at me when he said it. "I'm moving out, Mel. It's not working anymore." Not working anymore? We'd been married for 6 years. I'd supported his dream through 4 years of med school, 2 years of pre-med. I'd worked double shifts, picked up catering gigs on weekends, sold my car, and emptied my savings account, the one I'd been building since high school for my own restaurant someday. "Is this a joke?" I asked, still standing there in my ketchup-stained uniform, smelling like French fries and disappointment. That's when he finally looked at me, his face a mask of practiced sympathy, the kind doctors give right before delivering bad news. "Victoria and I have been—" "Victoria? Your professor? Dr. Victoria West?" The words felt like rocks in my mouth. He had the audacity to nod like I just asked if it was raining outside. "She understands my world, Mel. The pressures, the expectations. We connect on a different level." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It burst out of me like water from a broken pipe. "A different level? I've been killing myself to pay for your world for 6 years." That's when he said it. The words that branded themselves into my brain. "That's the thing, Mel. I'm a doctor now. I need someone who fits into my life, my future. And let's be honest, no one wants a simple waitress." He left that night, taking the suitcases and 6 years of my life with him. I stood in our half-empty apartment and made myself a promise. Daniel Sullivan would regret those words for the rest of his life. Updated. Still shaking, writing this. Never thought I'd be that woman whose husband leaves her for someone better. The worst part? I believed in us so much I never saw it coming. Have you ever sacrificed everything for someone only to have them throw it back in your face? Daniel. And I met at Rosie's Diner 7 years ago. I was 22, working full-time while taking business classes at community college. He was 24, a pre-med student with dreams bigger than his wallet. He'd come in every Tuesday and Thursday, order the cheapest thing on the menu, black coffee and whole wheat toast, and study for hours. I noticed him because he was always kind. He thanked me by name, left decent tips despite being obviously broke, and never treated me like I was beneath him, unlike most of the college crowd. One rainy Tuesday, he asked if I'd check his flashcards on anatomy. 2 hours later, we were still talking after my shift ended. He proposed a year later with a tiny diamond ring he'd saved up for by donating plasma. "We'll build something amazing. Together," he promised. "Your dream restaurant, my medical career, we'll help each other get there." I believed him. God, I believed him with every cell in my body. The first 2 years were good. Hard, but good. We both worked while he finished pre-med. I picked up extra shifts. He tutored on weekends. We ate ramen and dreams for dinner. When his med school acceptance letter came, we danced around our crappy apartment like we'd won the lottery. That's when everything changed. Med school was a beast that devoured our life. The hours were impossible, the stress unrelenting. Daniel needed to focus entirely on school, so we agreed I'd work more so he could study more. It made sense at the time. A doctor's salary would eventually make up for the sacrifices. I ended up dropping my business classes. There wasn't enough time or money for both our dreams. "Just for now," Daniel assured me. "Once I'm established, you can go back and open that restaurant." So I worked. I worked until my feet bled in those cheap shoes. I worked until I forgot what it felt like to not be tired. I worked until my dream became a faint echo I could barely remember. Dr. Victoria West entered our lives during Daniel's 3rd year. She was everything I wasn't. Sophisticated, educated, from old money that funded a wing at the university hospital. Her hair always looked like she just stepped out of a salon, while mine was usually stuffed under a waitress cap, smelling like burger grease. Daniel started mentioning her in conversation. At first casually, then incessantly. Victoria thinks I noticed the shine in his eyes when he talked about her, but I pushed away the jealousy. I trusted him. We were a team. The graduation ceremony should have been our triumph. I sat in the audience watching my husband accept his diploma, tears streaming down my face. 6 years of sacrifice had paid off. He was officially Dr. Daniel Sullivan. We'd made it, except we hadn't. I didn't know it then, but as I cheered from those uncomfortable folding chairs, Victoria was already in the picture. Literally. When I scrolled through the photos later, she was in the background of almost every shot, watching Daniel with the same pride I felt as if she had any right to it. 1 week. That's all it took for him to pack his bags after the ceremony. 1 week of strange phone calls, late nights at the hospital, and a growing distance between us that I attributed to post-graduation stress. She's my mentor, he'd insisted whenever. I'd questioned their relationship over the past year. It's professional enough to move in together the week after graduation, apparently. After he left, I found receipts. Dinner at Cavalli's, a restaurant so expensive I'd never even driven past it. A weekend trip to Vancouver when he told me he was at a medical conference. A silver Tiffany bracelet purchased the day before graduation. Certainly not for me. The betrayal was one thing, but the timing? Perfect calculated precision. He'd used me up until the very last drop, until I had nothing left to give, and then discarded me like an empty juice box. The Sunday after he left, my mom called. She'd always been practical to a fault. Men leave, honey. It happens, but you're still young. You can still find someone. That wasn't the point. I didn't want someone else. I wanted justice. I wanted Daniel to realize exactly what he'd thrown away. 3 days after Daniel walked out, I called in sick to work for the first time in 5 years. I didn't get out of bed. I ordered pizza I couldn't taste and watched Netflix shows I couldn't follow. My best friend Jamie came over, took one look at me, and staged an intervention. "This isn't you," she said, picking up empty Diet Coke cans from my bedside table. "The Melanie I know doesn't collapse when life kicks her in the teeth." She was right. I'd grown up with a single mom who worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I'd started waiting tables at 16 to help with bills. I wasn't a quitter. "So what are you going to do about it?" Jamie asked, hands on her hips. That question changed everything. What was I going to do? Cry forever? Beg him to come back? Move on and pretend 6 years of my life hadn't just been stolen? No. I was going to make him remember my name every single day for the rest of his medical career. I got out of bed, showered for the first time in days, and opened my business plan, the one I'd been working on between shifts before Daniel and med school took over my life. Comfort food for busy lives. A restaurant that understood the insane schedules of healthcare workers. Good food, served quickly. Available at weird hours when normal restaurants were closed. The location would be crucial. I spent days researching until I found it. A failed coffee shop directly across from Mercy General Hospital, where Daniel was starting his residency. The rent was steep, but not impossible. The size was perfect for my scaled-down concept. One major problem: money. Daniel had left me with our joint checking account drained. I had exactly $4,187 in my personal savings, for Ross's account he didn't know about, where I'd been squirreling away tips for years. It wasn't enough. I made a list of everyone who might help. My mom, barely making ends meet herself. Jamie, still paying off student loans. My Uncle Rick, who'd always believed in me, but had just put his kids through college. Then I remembered the inheritance. My grandmother had left me $15,000 when she died, money I'd been saving for something special someday. I'd almost used it for Daniel's med school until he got that partial scholarship. It was still sitting in a CD, waiting. Between that, my savings, and maxing out my single credit card, I had just enough for first and last month's rent, minimal renovations, and basic equipment. The rest would have to be secondhand, bargain basement, or DIY. I secured the lease on a Wednesday. By Friday, I'd given notice at Rosie's. My manager, Sophia, looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're opening a restaurant across from where your ex works? Honey, that's not a business plan, that's revenge." "Why can't it be both?" I countered. I named it Night Shift, a nod to both my years of late-night waitressing and the target audience. The menu was simple but perfect. Hearty sandwiches, robust salads, breakfast served all day, and coffee that would make your heart race for your next 12-hour shift. Everything could be packaged to go or eaten quickly on site. The renovations nearly broke me. Turns out, restaurant equipment costs more than dreams. I painted walls myself at 2 a.m. after working my notice at Rosie's. I found tables and chairs at restaurant auctions and estate sales. My Uncle Rick drove down from Portland to help install the kitchen equipment I'd bought used from a diner that had gone under. Opening day was 6 weeks after Daniel had walked out. I hadn't heard from him since, though I'd caught glimpses of him and Victoria at a distance, entering the hospital, leaving in her sleek BMW. They looked like they belonged on a medical drama, all perfect hair and coordinated outfits. I sent a grand opening announcement to everyone at the hospital, nurses, doctors, techs, custodial staff, everyone except Daniel. I wanted it to blindside him, just like he'd blindsided me. The first day was slow until word spread. By dinner, we had a line. Turns out hospital staff were desperate for good food that understood their schedules. By midnight, we'd sold out of nearly everything. On day 3, Nadia, a charge nurse from the ER, became a regular. I've worked here 5 years, and no one's ever considered what we actually need. You get it. She brought colleagues. They brought more. I worked 20-hour days that first month, sleeping on a cot in the back office. But it was working. Night shift was becoming a hospital institution. Then it happened. 6 weeks after opening, Daniel walked in. He stopped dead when he saw me behind the counter. It was 10 p.m., and we were packed with the night shift coming on and the evening shift getting off. Mel? His voice carried over the buzz of conversation. The place didn't go silent like in movies, but people noticed. Hospital staff love gossip. Smiled my best customer service smile. Dr. Sullivan, what can I get you? He looked around, bewildered. You opened a restaurant? Here? Best location in town, I said, still smiling. What can I get you? He ordered a coffee, black, like the old days. As I handed it to him, he leaned in. Can we talk? Privately? I'm working, I replied, loud enough for others to hear. Some of us don't have the luxury of private conversations during business hours. His cheeks flushed. Good. He came back the eye. Next day. And the day after. Always alone, always watching me. On the 4th visit, he left a note with his tip. I miss you. I used it to wipe up a coffee spill. By month 3, night shift had broken even. Unheard of in the restaurant business. By month 4, we were profitable. I hired more staff, expanded the menu, started catering hospital events. Then Victoria started coming in. Not with Daniel, but with Dr. Hawkins, the new cardiothoracic surgeon. They'd sit at the corner table, heads close together, laughing at private jokes. The hospital grapevine told me everything. Victoria had dropped Daniel like yesterday's trash. Dr. Hawkins was divorced, wealthy, and on track to become the next chief of surgery. Daniel had been a stepping stone, just like I had been to him. Daniel started looking worse each time he came in, circles under his eyes, clothes slightly rumpled. The shine of new doctorhood had faded fast. 6 months after opening night shift, he came in late, clearly after a brutal shift. He waited until the place was nearly empty. Can we please talk now? He asked, his voice raw. I nodded to my assistant manager to cover and led him to my small office. You've done amazing here, he started, looking around at the awards and positive reviews already framed on the wall. I always knew you could. Did you? I leaned against my desk. Because I remember you calling me a simple waitress. He winced. I was an ass, I know that now. Now that Victoria dumped you for a bigger fish, his head snapped up. You know about that? I laughed. Everyone knows, Daniel. Hospital staff talk and they all eat here. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. She was a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. No, I corrected him. The biggest mistake was throwing away someone who loved you enough to sacrifice everything for your dream. I know that now, he whispered. I miss you, Mel, every day. Victoria was flash and status. You're real. You're warmth and home and good enough now that I own a successful business, I interrupted. Now that I'm not just serving food, but building something impressive? He looked genuinely confused. That's not it. Then what changed, Daniel? Because 6 months ago, I was exactly the same person. I had the same drive, the same dreams. The only difference was my job title. He had no answer for that. Updated, some of you asked if I ever suspected anything before he left. Looking back, there were signs everywhere. Late study sessions, new cologne, text messages he'd hide. But when you're working 60-plus hours weekly to support someone, you don't have energy left to play detective. Did you ignore red flags because you were too exhausted to deal with them? Daniel started his campaign to win me back the very next day. Flowers delivered to night shift. I donated them to the hospital's pediatric ward. A handwritten letter detailing all the ways he'd failed me. I read it once, then used it to light the pilot on our temperamental oven. He even enlisted Jamie, calling her to plead his case. She told him exactly where he could stick his stethoscope. He's in rough shape, Jamie reported after hanging up on him. Apparently, Victoria didn't just dump him. She got him removed from a research project they were working on together. His career's stalling before it even started. And that's my problem because I was prepping for our new breakfast catering service for morning staff meetings. It's not, Jamie assured me. Just thought you'd want to know Karma's working overtime on your behalf. 3 months after our office confrontation, I expanded night shift to include a small grab-and-go section in the hospital lobby. The administration had approached me. Turns out staff productivity improved when they had access to decent food. Daniel had to walk past our kiosk every single day. I was there for the lobby location's opening, arranging breakfast sandwiches in the display case, when Victoria sauntered up with Dr. Hawkins. She didn't recognize me at first, then did a double take. You're Daniel's ex, right? She said it like she was trying to place a vaguely familiar actress from a forgotten TV show. Melanie, I supplied, extending my hand. And you're Victoria. Congratulations on the Cardiothoracic Fellowship. Very impressive. Her eyes widened slightly. She hadn't expected me to know about her career or to be civil. Thank you, she said, suddenly uncertain. Your restaurant seems to be doing well. Restaurants, plural, I corrected. We're opening our 3rd location at University Hospital. Next month. Dr. Hawkins looked interested. Really? We have terrible food options there. I'd love to discuss bringing night shift to the surgical floor. Victoria's smile tightened. I handed Dr. Hawkins my business card. I'd be happy to discuss it. My assistant can set up a meeting. As they walked away, I heard Victoria hiss. You're not seriously considering working with her? Why not? He replied. She's clearly the best option around. I smiled to myself. Victoria had underestimated me, just like Daniel had. The real shift came when I was interviewed for a local business magazine's 30 Under 30 feature. The photographer took my picture right outside night shift, with the hospital visible in the background. The headline read, From Waitress to Restaurant Mogul, How Rejection Launched an Empire. I didn't mention Daniel by name in the interview, but I did talk about using my savings to support my ex-husband through medical school, only to be abandoned when he no longer needed financial support. The story struck a chord. Orders doubled. Catering requests poured in from every hospital and medical office in a 50-mile radius. Daniel showed up the day after the article was published. It was late, almost closing time. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhaustion etched into his face. You told everyone, he said, tossing the magazine onto the counter. I told my story, I corrected. You're just a footnote in it. I'm being ostracized. At the hospital. People are whispering. Some won't even work with me. Welcome to consequences, I said, wiping down the counter. Isn't that what doctors are supposed to understand? Cause and effect? He sat heavily on a stool. I deserve that. I said nothing. I'm so sorry, Mel, he continued, his voice breaking. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I regret everything, the way I treated you, what I said, leaving. Victoria was... He trailed off. Let me guess, I offered. She was exciting and new. She made you feel important, special. He nodded miserably. She saw the doctor, not the scared kid from Nebraska who used to study anatomy flashcards at a diner counter. His head snapped up. How did you... Because I know you, Daniel. The real you. Not the white coat, not the title, not the performance. That's what makes this all so stupid. You left someone who loved every version of you for someone who only wanted the final product. He reached for my hand across the counter. I pulled back. Please, he whispered. Give me another chance. We can start over. I looked at him. Really. Looked at him. The boy I'd loved was still there, somewhere behind those tired eyes. But so was the man who had abandoned me, who had deemed me unworthy simply because of my job title. No, I said finally. We can't go back. Too much has changed. I've changed. What can I do? He asked. Tell me what I need to do to fix this. I sighed. You don't get it, Daniel. There is no fixing this. There's no grand gesture that erases what happened. This isn't about forgiveness. I've already forgiven you, for my sake, not yours. This is about consequences. You made your choice. Now we both live with it. As I locked up that night, watching him walk back toward the hospital in the rain, I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. I was finally free, not just of Daniel, but of needing his approval, his validation, his presence, in my life. 2 years later, Night Shift has grown to 5 locations across 3 cities, each one strategically placed near a major medical center, each one profitable within 6 months of opening. My healthcare worker-centered business model has been featured in Entrepreneur magazine. I've been asked to speak at business schools about finding your niche market. The irony isn't lost on me. I never finished those business classes, but now I'm teaching concepts to students. Daniel transferred his residency to Chicago 8 months after our final conversation. I heard through the hospital grapevine that He needed a fresh start. He sent a letter before he left, not asking for anything, just wishing me well and saying he'd always regret what he'd done. It's the only piece of correspondence from him I've kept. I've launched a scholarship foundation for partners of medical students, small grants for those putting their own dreams on hold to support someone else's medical career. The application asks just one question: what would you do with this money if you put yourself first? Last week, I received an invitation to speak at the same medical school Daniel attended. The topic? Entrepreneurship in healthcare adjacent industries. I accepted. The event coordinator mentioned they might invite some successful alumni to attend as well. I wonder if Daniel will be there. Victoria, I heard, is engaged to Dr. Hawkins. She orders from our hospital kiosk location almost daily but never makes eye contact with the staff. That's fine. Her money spends just like everyone else's. As for me, I'm dating again, casually, nothing serious. A chef from a restaurant across town. He respects what I've built, admires it even. He calls me a badass restaurateur and means it as the highest compliment. Sometimes people ask if I regret spending those years supporting Daniel through medical school. I don't. Those years taught me everything about sacrifice, hard work, and resilience. Without them, night shift might never have existed. Without his betrayal, I might still be dreaming instead of doing. The truth is, I'm grateful. Not for the pain, never for that, but for the fire it lit inside me. Daniel thought he was leaving a simple waitress. Instead, he created a competitor who will outlast his memory. Yesterday, I signed the lease on location number 6. It's directly across from the medical center in Chicago where Daniel now works. Old habits die hard, I guess. Updated. Thanks for all the support on this journey. Many asked if I ever told Daniel about the Chicago location. I haven't, but sometimes I imagine his face when he sees the coming soon sign. To those asking about romance, yes, the chef and I are still going strong. He understands my drive, because he has his own. Would you give someone a second chance after they showed you exactly who they are?